Good evening, everybody, and welcome to A Chat With. And as you can see, I'm joined by the Most Reverend Lyn. Good evening, dear.
Good evening. Good evening to you. Good evening to everyone.
Yes, and this is the fault of the people over there in the comments, because I said to them, is there anybody you would like me to get on to have a talk with or anything? And they said, Lyn. Okay, we could do that. I know. And so many people are saying in the comments, I'm so looking forward to this. Don't peak too soon is all I will say. Don't peak too soon. Oh, dear. So, Lyn, would you like to open in prayer, please, and just set the intention for tonight?
Yes, I will. Yes. It's funny, because I thought to myself, I saw that you said that you would welcome and open in prayer, and I thought, oh, well, that's all right. Reverend Tony will do that.
I can if you wish, but...
No, dear. No. I mean, prayers is what we all do all the time anyway.
It is.
It's basically second nature to all of us, isn't it?
Yeah.
Prayer is only opening your heart and asking for other people mostly, and perhaps a little bit for yourself. So I just ask everybody if they would just maybe close their eyes and put away the cares and worries and troubles of the day and the night, and open up their hearts and minds to the great spirit of all that's good, love and light and peace, and ask that this time that we have set aside for some worship and some communication and some sociable talking between ourselves down here, we ask that all those who love us in the world of spirit will be allowed to come close to us this night and listen in and put their two penneth in if they want to, as we talk amongst ourselves and as we speak about our life experience and how we interact with each other. And we trust, we don't just hope, we trust that the Great Spirit will allow his angels and the ministers of healing and comfort to come close to us all this night, this day, depending on where we live in the world, of course, and to bless us with that comfort and healing presence. And as we say, thank you, Lord, for this opportunity to share with each other of like minds, and we know that the spirit hosts will be all around us at this time, looking after us and guarding us. Amen.
Amen. Do one there, love. I think. Sorry, Michael's just come upstairs and he's looking for his headphones so he can listen in. Hello.
Hi.
Thank you, Lyn. That was lovely. It really was. It was truly lovely. And I spent actually quite a long time talking with Michael about how we wanted to structure this. And I will say to people, I have put a bare bones framework together for a discussion, but please drop into comments anything you want to talk about or any questions you've got for Lyn, and we'll get through as many as we can. But before I talk about your passion for evidential truth, I want to go back about 20 years to when you were little.
Listen, you're not that far wrong, because time is relative.
It is. I always say you're as old as you feel. I feel about 102 today. But anyway.
Don't even go there, Reverend Tony, because the tone of this evening will sink out of sight.
It will. Keep it high. So what type of world was Lyn born into?
Oh, my goodness me. Well, not to give too much away, I was born in an air raid.
Wow.
So the Luftwaffe missed me.
it's Germany's fault.
They were,
Right.
they were obviously focusing on Kettering General at the time, but they missed their mark, which was fortunate.
Gosh, yes, yeah. That's
so
like,
I guess it was sort of a noisy world.
Yeah, yeah. Very chaotic, I would have thought as well.
Not so much. You know, we were in England. I will mention that fact that, you know, England was renowned for, you know, staying calm under fire, and you know, they still talk about the Blitz spirit, and you know, look back on those wartime years, especially now since all this COVID-19 stuff has gone on. And you know, people were very resilient and courageous and calm, you know, in the worst possible conditions. And I spent my early years, of course, in air raid shelters.
Gosh, I can imagine. And did faith play a part in your early life?
Did what?
Faith.
Oh, faith.
Did faith play a part in your early life?
Yes, I think it must have, but not. It wasn't. I don't know. Yes. Well, it wasn't so much faith as I knew things. So I guess I was born a spiritualist. I didn't know that. But you know how we know about things. We don't have that sort of faith. We don't need that faith, because faith implies a sort of a blind sort of trust or something, and we don't need that because we know. We know these things. You know, we know things. We know about God. We know about the Great Spirit. We know about the world outside of our world that's also, you know, around us. And when I was born, you know, I knew that that things were all right. You know, I mean, how can I put that? You know, you said faith, and you could translate that as faith, I guess. No, I think you're right. Actually, I think it goes beyond faith, really, because, like you said, faith. People say, don't they, blind faith. So you do it, not thinking why you're doing it. You just do it. Where we know. It's like, I saw a really lovely medium giving a philosophy, and she started it with, people ask me, so do you believe in life after death then? And she said, no, I don't. I know there's life after death. I don't believe it. Yeah. It is that, isn't it? It's knowing. Yeah. She says, I know there's life after death. It's nothing to do with belief or faith. I know it for fact. Yes, exactly. Like you say, we know it. It's because Lynn's using a phone tonight, not a computer. Karen Moulton said, you've got a beautiful sepia tone around you. Oh dear, oh dear. It's like those very old photographs. Listen, listen, that's a bit before my time, young woman. Yes. Sepia was before my time. We had black and white, I'll have you know. We had the black and white. Bless you. So what were the early passions in your life? Oh, well, as soon as I could, I learned to read, and music. I loved music. I loved words. I thought the world was a very wonderful place, but puzzling. I was very puzzled. I remember being very puzzled by it, and feeling that I needed to find out about it and how it worked and things. It was an amazing place. It is an amazing place, but I know that that's how I felt when I was a child. You know, I really wanted to read every book in the world. I wanted to hear every music in the world. I wanted to know everybody in the world. You know, I had this sort of, I was born with this sort of global desire to understand and to be a part of everything there was. So that was, I suppose. And then when I was about 8 years old, I discovered ice skating.
Ah.
And that, as my mother called it, an obsession. But I'm still obsessed with skating, even though I can't do it anymore.
Oh, bless you. And sort of moving forward a little bit then, what inspired...
Yes, moving swiftly on.
No. Oh, Macca White makes an interesting point. It's such an important point. Believing is different to knowing, and that shift in spiritual growth is an absolutely marvelous part of it. And that's so true. It's so true.
Yeah.
What inspires the 20-year-old Lyn?
Nothing much, I can tell you. Really. As I was growing up, I became really quite, I mentioned about being puzzled.
Yes.
And the more time I spent, here, and growing and learning, the more, I suppose, rather disillusioned I became. So as for inspiring, I think the great teachers, mostly I read the Talmud, which is a commentary basically on the Bible, written by ancient rabbis. And I read a lot of that, and any sort of decent, interesting books like that I could. I was very lucky because my mum's dad had a lovely little library in a room in his house, and he used to let me loose in there, and I used to stay in there for hours reading, and he had a whole set of encyclopedias and things, So by the time I was about 12, I'd absorbed quite a lot, and I was inspired by a Russian woman speed skater, which is not what you're expecting to hear.
No.
I was very skeptical of people's claims to, holy orders and things like that. I sort of investigated their lives and thought about all sorts of things, and I think people like Miriam, or Mary, as she's more commonly known now, that as she's called, Virgo Fidelis, the faithful virgin. Mary was very, I suppose, inspirational to me, and various other, personages. But I mean, the real inspiration of my life was this Russian speed skater.
Wow. There you go. And do elements of the 20-year-old Lyn still exist?
Of course, they exist in all of us. We are the sum total of all our experiences, that we've had. If we're talking about earthly experience, and although we don't retain vivid memory of everything because we couldn't, it's wonderful the way we've been made. We have some memories of some things. Unfortunately, bad memories are often uppermost, but it's usually balanced with quite a bit of good. But the thing is that we don't have a conscious memory of everything. We couldn't possibly, because it would literally drive us mad, and we wouldn't be able to focus on the present. So I think we are the sum total of our lives up until the time we're speaking now, all of us, and how we're meeting now. And as for elements of my 20-year-old self, I can identify those, little bits here and there, as I think everybody would be able to, really. And we all have different stories. But of course, the thing is that what I've been told is that when we do actually pass over to the world of spirit, we are basically reunited with our subconscious. So therefore, we are reunited with all those memories.
Wow.
We are able to access all those memories and sort of to go through it all, and make some sense out of it. Because if you think about it, you know, when we look at ourselves now, whatever stage we're at and however old we are, you know, if we're asked to, those of us who are over 20, you know, if we're asked about, you know, is there anything of our 20-year-old self left in us, most of us would say yes, of course there is, you know.
Yeah.
And I think perhaps if we were honest, we'd probably look at some of the worst aspects of our 20-year-old self to remember.
I know I would. Yeah. I know I would. That's interesting, the way you phrased that, because people sometimes say to me, "Oh, do you not regret getting married so young the first time around?" And like, no, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be who I was now. And you have to have gone through all of those things to learn and to grow and to develop. And they say, you know, and sometimes they bring that into mediumship, and you know, and I said, but all of this rubbish stuff that happens to us gives us the armor and the tools and the empathy, so that when we're communicating with spirit and delivering a message, we can deliver it with tact and with empathy and
well,
with
you'd hope
compassion.
so, wouldn't you?
I have seen some that you think, whoa, you know, don't put it like that. But, you know, horses for courses. But that's the way I look at my life experience, because I remember things happening to me and standing in a hospital when my dad's lying in coronary care, being hooked up to monitors and things, and thinking, why me? Why? I don't need this. And however many, 15 years later, plus a few, I can stand in front of somebody and deliver a message and understand, because I've gone through it and I've understood it, and you can deliver it with compassion and kindness.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like this one. This one was one of Michael's. Which came first, the writer or the journalist?
The writer. I had no respect for journalists or journalism, as far as I could see. As I mentioned, I loved words when I was a kid, and I learned to read as quickly as I could, and I started writing then. And I loved writing. And when I came to a situation where I was writing, but I was writing for the press, I refused to call myself a journalist. I used to say I'm a writer. You know, I never saw myself as a journalist, because I didn't think too highly of the press, you know, as such. And I could see what we now call the media very grandly, don't we? You know, I could see how the media was geared towards influencing the mass of the population. I could see how they whipped people up into, you know, a frenzy over certain aspects, perhaps even politics or religion, or, you know, that. But the bottom line was that the press seemed to be towing the line of their advertisers, and also whatever political party was sort of paying them. And I didn't want to be a part of that system. So although I was writing, I tried to write ethical words, and I don't think I've ever written anything that I would say I'm ashamed of. And I think that is an acid test, that I have not incited any violence or hatreds or bigotries, nothing like that. I've just tried to use my words and my writing to make things better for people, not worse. And so I never called myself a journalist. In fact, for many years after I started writing, and I did join the National Union of Journalists once. I thought I should, but I went to one of their meetings and I was appalled.
Oh gosh.
I won't go into it, but I was just appalled by it, you know, and I thought, I don't belong here at all. And in fact, they realised I didn't, because the person who was in charge of whatever they call them, the groups or branches or something, approached me afterwards and said, look, we're really sorry, but it's words to that effect, you know, but we don't think you actually belong here, because, you know, because you're freelance and you're in a situation where you're often in a position of hiring and firing journalists. And so really you don't belong here. So I gave him back my card. I thought, no, I don't really.
No.
But you know, I did have fun, and I have met a lot of journalists in my time, and I found a lot of them were very nice. And I'm not saying anything about journalists as people. I'm only talking about how I saw journalism, you know, and so on. And so I always said that I was a writer, until somebody said, no, but you are actually a journalist, Lyn.
Come on, admit it. You know.
So as I think I'd probably written a book or so by then, so I didn't mind so much. And I can't remember exactly when I decided that I wouldn't mind being called a journalist. I think when I first launched Sportswoman, the first all sports magazine for women in this country, ever, in 1985. And Kathy was my news desk. I've always made use of Kathy. Kathy was my news desk. I gave her that title, and I was the publishing editor. And yes, I think at that time I probably decided that, yes, I was a journalist. But a journalist among other journalists that I'd met that I respected. Journalists like Steve Pinder and Rob Steen, Mike Marquessy. I'm afraid they're all noted. They're all noted Bolshoi journalists. But you know, I would count them as people that I admired. And you might notice there aren't any women's names among them. But then I was that kind of a woman myself, who was mostly a man. I got on better with men than women. Women made me feel uncomfortable, and anyway, you know, most of the women I met didn't sort of measure up. I will say I admired Kathy very much.
Did you?
Kathy was a good journalist. Well, she was what we call a hack. She would go out and she would go out and report on sports venues and sporting events, and wonderful, you know, really good stuff. And not a glimmer of politics or anything else entered into it. You know, you could either kick a ball or you couldn't. And I admired Kathy's sort of focused and uncluttered way of looking at life that came out and still comes out in her writing.
Gosh, that you sort of answered the next question, which was who inspires you journalistically.
Nobody. You know, it was the same actually when I was painting. I was supposed to be an artist, you know, at one point. I went to art school to pursue that, but things turned out in a different way. So I pottered off out of there. I was one of the first dropouts from St Martin's School of Art, which people sort of fight to get in. I was the youngest person ever to be given a scholarship to that august college. St Martin's School of Art in the middle of the West End of London. And yes, what was the question?
Who inspires you journalistically?
Yes, sorry. Yes, so as I was going to say, although I digressed slightly, there were no painters really that inspired me either. I tended to think that one had to be independent of influence to try and make a difference and make something different yourself. You couldn't really copy anybody else. So it was best not to sort of, I find sometimes inspiration comes close to sort of copying or something, So
yeah, I can see
what happened to me when I came into spiritualism, I found somebody that I could admire, and that was Maurice Barbanel, and he was the founding editor of Psychic News. And I would say that he was an inspiration in that respect. So I found my inspiration late in life, you could say.
Barry Steer says he has spirits in his flat. How does he get rid of them?
Well, what you do, I've done many a getting rid of people that don't pay any rent. Spirit side people. Now, what I do is I advise sometimes that if you can get somebody to come in and do a nice little Holy Communion indoors, they don't like that if I feel a bit like Dad's Army, they don't like it up them. The thing is, if you get the Nagatis, as Charles Dickens used to call the nasty spirits, if you get them around, they don't like anything sacred. And you just really have to tell people absolutely that you don't want them around. They're not welcome. And if they are mischievous, then you have got to, get something done about that. And I always think that, a touch of Holy Communion usually helps completely, get rid of them. And if they want to get my book, the Spiritualist Handbook,
which I have a copy over there by the bed.
It has a section on exorcism. It's sort of like, it's a how-to book, isn't it? It's sort of how to do all sorts of things to do with spiritualism. So I suggest that this chap actually says to whoever he thinks it is, look, go away, do not trouble me or my family or anybody. You're not welcome here. And get some good vibes going, because like attracts like. Sometimes people don't realize that their own thoughts are allowing negative energies and negativity to come and live with them. It's very important that we should live, really positive lives and be positive. And if you don't want something nasty to be living with you, just treat them as you would if they were alive down here.
Yeah.
And show them the door.
Yeah.
Show them the door. Goodbye.
Yeah.
So that's my advice.
Well said. And I did notice, Lyn, when I was studying for my ordination, I read through the ordination service, turned the page, and there's the exorcism service straight afterwards. And I thought,
once you're ordained, Reverend Tony, once you're ordained, that's your job. You see, you have to go around to all these places and start chasing all the nasties away.
Yeah.
I've done quite a few jobs like that in my time.
And Pam Duffy says, does that go for the living as well? Yes, just ask them to leave, show them the door.
Well, exactly. You have to this is the thing, our civilization has sort of looked at the two worlds as if they're inexorably separated, and that's not true. They're breaking through all the time, thank God, and of course, along with the good comes the bad. You have to accept that. So you have to know how to deal with that bad. You don't have to deal with good. Good is good, but if you do get troubled by bad stuff, then you have to know how to deal with it. But the fact is, you deal with it in just the same way. That person was absolutely right. You deal with them as you would if somebody that you didn't want to visit you had just come and visited you, just walked in your door. You would not tolerate that.
No.
So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Now we're getting back to the bit that I said we would be looking at the beginning. I said before we talk about the evidential truth, we'll start at the beginning. So what is truth and what does it mean to you, Lyn?
That's the first line of Arthur Findlay's book, The Rock of Truth. What is truth? I mean, this is something, I'm sure Arthur Findlay would forgive me for going, to talking about him. As he said, and everybody has said who's thoughtful, that has troubled, thinking people since the beginning of time. What is the truth then? What's the truth? The truth for all time firmly stood. That's in the hymn. The truth at all times firmly stood. Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
The truth is absolute. The truth has only absolutes. You remember I've mentioned to you at the beginning of our chat, before we actually went on air, if that's what we call it still, that you had given me a list of the questions that you were going to put to me, and I said to you, I haven't actually looked at the list of questions. I sort of just looked and I thought, oh, well, because I've been really busy with all sorts of stuff with the Little Port Life magazine that I do for the community, voluntarily, I must add. And I hadn't had time. But I said to you then, but it doesn't matter that I haven't looked at the questions, because I don't need to rehearse the answers.
No.
Why do I not have to rehearse the answers? Because what I tell you is the truth.
Yeah.
And that is absolute. There's no prevarication there. And Jesus himself said, "Let your yes be yes and your no be no." What he meant was, don't mess about. Don't pretend or lie about stuff. Just be absolute in your approach to everything. And if you only tell the truth, that is the truth.
Yeah.
And you can widen that out and sort of start philosophizing about it in terms of, is it true that there is a designing intelligence behind the universe? Is it true that there is a God? Is it true that Jesus was born to, as a prophet, that he was actually, a part of God, sent, come to earth to experience, worldly matters before being, taken back up to spirit and reuniting with himself again? These are matters that have gone on being discussed for ever since human beings have had the capacity to think about, why are we here? What are we doing here? What's the reason for our life? All these questions. But I think that the truth is only what we know, and that is absolute. We are here, and good is the truth as well. I think so. So I think Arthur Findlay would give me that one.
I think, yeah. And I love that from Mr. Brown. The truth is a river and God is the mouth of the river. like
Well,
that.
of course, we have this affinity with rivers, Reverend Nick Brown and myself, because there's a river runs down the end of our road, the Great Ouse, and it's
Oh,
going to be
right.
the scene, and it's going to be the scene of the boat race this year. By the way, they're bringing it up here to
Are they?
Ely, and it'll be coming through Littleport. Yes.
Oh,
So we are really going to be very, very famous after the
oh,
boat
wow.
race day.
I'll have to watch that.
And so the river, yes, that's why. And Reverend Nick, I didn't know that you were there because I'm on my phone. You see, guys and gals, I don't see any comments. I only see
Um,
our lovely Reverend Tony and myself, and that's all
what
I
more
can
would you
see.
want to see?
Two little things, and afterwards,
Barry's
let's have a look.
Barry Steer says, Reverend Tony, question for you, fella. Do we all go back to our families again? If that's what you want to do. I mean, when I cross over, I would want to go back to my family.
Why wouldn't we?
Exactly.
The thing is
I mean,
this, that
if you got on with them in life, I suppose, yeah. If you didn't, then maybe not. But yeah,
I think look, we all get delivered here for a reason, and we're delivered in a biological package, and we are, the same as we're all the sum total of our earthly memories since we were born here. We are also the total of our DNA and our genetic heritage, and that is passed down to us through our forebears and our parents and their parents and so on and so forth, way back until you get right back to the very earliest human beings that were planted here on Earth. And so our family is really the whole human race. And therefore, when we go back to spirit, we go back to that understanding that we may not have had here, that we are all part of the human family. And our family members who have looked after us, if we've been fortunate enough to be looked after in that way by our biological families, so be it. So we would meet up with them again. Of course we would. But also, if we come from a non-biological family, we're born in the way we are, everybody's born the same way, but we may not be brought up, we may not be nurtured by the same people that actually produced us. And therefore, that is our family. And I think that illustrates it very well, that that the human race is the family, and it's whoever cares and loves you, cares for you, loves you, that is your family. And when we pass back to the spirit world, we will, of course, be reunited with those who have loved and cared for us while we've been down here, whether they are biological family or not.
Have you heard of the writer Armistead Morpen?
Yes.
His book's called The Logical Family, and Michael and I were lucky enough to go and see him talk, and he was promoting his autobiography, and he told a really lovely story that he sees your biological family, which is what you are born to, but everybody then finds their logical family, which are the people that fit, because there are so many people who haven't got the biological family support around them.
Well, it's the same kind of thing, isn't it? As
It
I
is.
said,
It's what you were saying. Yeah, it was lovely. So
that points to the truth.
Yes. Yeah.
You see,
that's people have said the same thing. Yeah, it's the truth. It really is. It's lovely. So it's something I've heard you talk about a lot on Littleport. There were lots of proof. So what is proof to you? What is proof, and what does it mean?
We need to prove without doubt, beyond doubt, that we are spirit beings in bodies, that we come from spirit, and that we go back to spirit as individuals, that our consciousness, our personality, our persona, our individuality survives physical death. And that is what we need to prove to people, to put our case for survival of the human spirit, consciousness as individuals. And we need good mediums in order to do that, to provide that evidence, that validation of what we say is the truth. And so the proof that is required is exactly that. Again, it's the truth. We have been denigrated ever since, you know, modern spiritualism came about in 1848. Ever since then, we've been denigrated, and people have said, but you know, it's all parlor tricks or just for a laugh, and it's all about people coming back and talking about stupid things, and why would they come back from the dead and talk about the color of somebody's socks, or whether they'd had chips for dinner or something. But you see, proof is in the minutiae of life. The proof that we are here is in the minutiae of our everyday lives, and the proof that we can remember some of that and pass that through, relay through a medium here, a willing person who's devoted time and trouble and effort into elevating their own consciousness in order to attune themselves to spirit and to be able to relay information back from loved ones to loved ones here. I think that is of the essence, and we need to applaud anybody who tries to do that in a proper way. And you know, every day, every minute, every hour, there are mediums working away, even if they're not absolutely, devoted to the cause of spiritualism, and some of them aren't. You know, they are working away there, giving people that proof that they need, that their loved ones are still able to care for them, and it helps very much to comfort and bring healing to people who are grieving, people who, you know, you can feel the loss of somebody dear to you for many, many, many years. It never goes away.
No.
And it's just lovely if somebody can give you a communication, however short, that is absolutely evidential, that is that person who is actually managing to speak from that wonderful far land, you know, has managed to sort of get something back to you. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, and I completely agree, because there are times you could be sat in a congregation and somebody can be delivering a beautiful message, and I get so frustrated thinking, but you haven't said who you're communicating with. You know, there's been none of that.
Tell me about it. Well, that's about training. Excuse me for a little.
I was just going to do this. So, talking about training, if there was only one essential lesson you could give a new medium, what would that be?
Don't open your mouth to speak unless you've got somebody there. And by somebody, I mean somebody in spirit.
Somebody in spirit side.
Don't.
I have to say, in my defence, Lynn, I've been stood on a rostrum before, and I've heard a voice in my ear say to me, "Lady in the purple top sat in the middle row." And I can look at the lady and go, right. And it's like, I've got one end of the phone going and the other side still ringing. And they're still not making the connection.
No. That's
I know it's going to come. I know it's going to come, but they do like to test me sometimes.
that's where trust comes in. You have to say, I've got to go to the lady that's sitting in the so and so row in the purple top, and then you'll get something else. And even if you can't hear them, you can see them or something, you know. So
Yeah,
just
I know it's there, and I know that I can sense they're there, but it's just, come on, you know. But it's look, and I know what it is. It's Michael's dad. He's very naughty. And when he wants to bring somebody through, that's what he'll do. He'll tell me where I need to be, but haven't made the link with, but he's very naughty. So how did the new Christian Spiritualist Society come into existence?
Wow. It was because because of the European Union. You know, that long forgotten thing. Almost. Now, there was a European directive given to this government. I mean, it sounds outrageous, does it? Not now.
Yeah.
Now we've got a shot of them. Listen to this. Europe told this government, our sovereign government, our parliament, our model for the whole flaming world, you know, that they would have to scrap a lot of their trading acts that were on our statute books and bring in a new trades description. This was, and we set up a department for business and regulatory reform, and in fact it was George Osborne who was in there at the time, and somebody decided that the Fraudulent Mediums Act of 1951 would be repealed as well. They got the opportunity, our enemies, to scrap that act. That act guaranteed to us spiritualists our freedom to practice our mediumship within the remit of our spiritualist religion. It accepted, if you like, by saying that there were fraudulent mediums, it accepted in essence that there must be genuine mediums, you see. And that was absolutely revolutionary, absolutely revolutionized our way of life. You know, we were free to practice our mediumship. And Europe decided in that raft of, you know, sweeping away our laws, that and putting in place some new thing, that the Fraudulent Mediums Act could go as well. And of course, nobody of any, I don't know, gumption or stopped it happening. So what was going on, right? I was trying to stop that happening. So I went on to radio programs, BBC, ITV. I went on those good morning shows. Anywhere I went on, I even went on some music radio program, that, you know, some modern thing, you know, late at night. You know, it was amazing. I went all over the place arguing for the Fraudulent Mediums Act of 1951 to be kept on the statute books and not to be done away with. And so therefore what happened was that Europe got its way, and the government abolished some of the laws that covered trades descriptions, and a new trade descriptions regulatory thing was set up, and that was supposed to cover everybody. But what I argued was that it couldn't possibly cover mediumship, because mediumship was an aspect, it was a spiritualist practice, spiritualism being a religion, a religious denomination, whatever kind of spiritualist you were, that mediumship was part of the spiritualist practice, and people, you know, were convinced by certain organisations that they would be safe from prosecution under the New Trade Descriptions Act if they were to say that they were doing it purely for entertainment or as an experiment that could not guarantee a result. Well, I was absolutely incensed, and I got quite a lot of support from members of the spiritualist community. But the biggest organisation for spiritualists in this country, the Spiritualist National Union, went out against me. And I went head to head with Graham Hewitt, who was their spokesman for them at the time. And I argued long and hard against them actually advising their members and their churches to say any such thing. And they carried on. And I thought there's no way. So everywhere I went to serve, because I was a serving medium, you know, went served churches all over the place, of course. And everywhere I went, I told them that I was not doing it for entertainment purposes, and I was not doing it as an experiment, because I was a medium and I talked to the dead. And if I did not talk to the dead, who the flaming Ada was I talking to then off the platform? So I got my message out to as many people as I could. But the organisations that were at the time, and that included non-SNU organisations. That was United Spiritualists, the Corinthian Church and Healing Association, all these, big ones. Do you know what they started doing? Selling insurance to mediums and healers. And I thought, wait a minute. So they were getting commission from the insurance companies, of course, and telling people that they needed insurance against prosecution. And I was telling people, this country has good enough laws. If you're going to rip people off and you're going to pretend to be a medium or pretend to be a healer, and you will get prosecuted, good job. And I said to them, and no insurance papers in the world will help you if you are in the dock.
No.
So I decided with them upstairs, because I was so cross, I had a word. And the people that worked with me said to me, well, you will have to start your own organisation. Oh, I thought, no. I don't have enough trouble.
Yeah.
So I did.
Bless you. Bless you.
And of course, I started, I think it was about 2009. That's right. Yes, thank you. I'm being reminded. In 2008, all this was going on. And in 2009, I started the Doris Stokes Memorial Church. And it was going to be the Doris Stokes Memorial Church. And then it expanded. Then it became Doris Stokes Memorial Church and Healing Association. And then I thought, no, okay, what shall I do? And I had a word. And of course, Doris Stokes also was involved. And they came up with the new Spiritualist Society. And so it started. And the first thing I said to people was, you don't have to give me any money.
Radical.
You don't have to pay for any insurance. We are not going to sell insurance. You don't need insurance because you'll be part of a religious movement, a religious organisation, a religious church. And in the same way that priests and the Archbishop of Canterbury, God bless him, doesn't have to pay insurance because they stand there every day and tell people they're going to live on after they die. They don't give them any actual proof. They give them anecdotal proof. They give them anecdotal proof. They resort to sacred texts, saying, "Look, Jesus said you will, and you must believe that." But even some Christians who belong to, say, for instance, the Church of England, so on and so forth, they also believe what we believe. They're also spiritualists. So they know that there is actual, present day truth and revelation. It hasn't just all finished back in the biblical times. But the fact is this, that we grew and grew and grew. And in 2011, I wrote that book. Because I had previously written a book for Thorson's called Principles of Spiritualism in 1999, and that went down quite well. And I did another update on that, and that went well as well. And then this last one was basically to put the truth out there. There's the truth again. Put it out there as best I could, and I called it the Spiritualist's Handbook, because in just the same way as you might get a DIY manual, a handbook, how to do it, I thought that's what I'll do. So I crammed as much as I could. I know that I'm supposed to update it again, but it's so far so good. People quite like it, and it's useful. That's the point.
It is really useful. The
Christian part crept in gradually, because lots of people were saying they were Christian, and they felt alienated from mainstream spiritualism because of that. They felt would you believe some of them were saying they felt they had to hide the fact that they were Christian? When they went to spiritualist churches and things, because some of them didn't agree with it. So I thought, okay. And I said to Reverend Nick Brown, who's been really my right-hand man in all of this, what do you think, Nick? Should we put, we should say that we're Christian, and yes, so there you are. So that's how it came about, Tony, Reverend Tony.
That's wonderful. And you've answered the next bit, which was, when did Christianity feature? So how would you say our religion differs from orthodoxy?
Because we don't say that you have to do X, Y, Z in order to have eternal life. Unfortunately, people get a handle on the fact that we do have eternal life, and in a way, if you like, they're being deceitful. I don't feel that they can't know that everybody has it, but they're saying that unless you perform certain rituals or do certain things, you cannot inherit eternal life, and that is not true. Every human being is of spirit, has a spirit within them that is eternal, and it's that individual human spirit that lives on, is recognizable, by its loved ones, our loved ones, and others, in just the same way as we are down here, only more so. This is what Orthodox religion doesn't hold with it. So we are heretics. Unfortunately, we would rather be, perhaps accepted by Orthodox established churches, and but we say you don't have to do all these things in order to live on eternally. Yeah. So that's I think that's the main thing that separates us up from them.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. People are asking about the book. It's on Amazon, and I will post a link to it on my page and in the comments on this feed afterwards. Lisa
Oh, you must
Scott.
tell that chap about the exorcism, because that's a good one. He can have his own exorcism service, you see.
Yes, the
There's
exorcism.
loads
Barry.
of services in there as well. The whole idea about the society is to put it all out there into the general public. People, people can't make valid choices for themselves unless they know the truth about everything.
They do.
And
That's so
so
true.
that's what I undertook to put out there when I wrote that book. So there's as much in it as I could manage.
Lisa Scott just asked a quick question. Do all mediums see spirit as well as hear them? No. Some see, some hear, some sense. It depends. I don't know if it's the spirit's choice or the medium, how open the medium is. Then might be able to answer that. But I know at first I could hear them, but I couldn't see them. But then as the trust grew, then I saw them as well. But I don't know. Over to Lyn.
Now the clue to answering questions is always to read the whole question. And I think that you could say that spirit, the operators in spirit do look at the vessels that they're going to be using and see what makes them tick. And basically people receive the kind of clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairsentience, whatever it is that they get, they receive that if they are tuned in anyway in their human frame. So there are quite a few mediums who only see, for instance, who would say they're only clairvoyant. They just see spirit and they see symbols, they see images, and they interpret those through their own mind and can pass on some good messages that way. There are some people who are only clairaudient; they can hear spirit, and I always think that that's the best, actually, to be honest. But they could just tell you whatever it is they hear. And then there's clairsentient. I always feel a bit sorry for people who are only clairsentient because they just feel things. And, sometimes feelings can be liars, and you have to be very careful when you're feeling something to make sure that it's not something that you feel, that it's definitely something that is felt from spirit, from without. And what I always say to people is that they need to attune themselves to spirit and to begin to understand all the various emanations that come to them from spirit and how they can utilize that by their own gifts. And I think that people need to develop as much as they can before they start to give people communication from the world of spirit, because it can the worst of it is if people then go away thinking, oh well, that's a load of rubbish. I think that's what we have to, we have to guard against that. So I think we have to study and be as good as we can be for everybody. But I do think that those in spirit do have a good poke about, and in us as people, to see what we've got going for us and what they might be able to sort of hone and make decent mediums out of us. So yes, there is something to do with that. Yes. What I always say to people is, you just have to meditate and develop and go with, do everything you can to be as good as you can, to be a good channel for for those spirit operators, and to really, before you do anything, to have a good rapport with a guide, because your guide will help you. You know, like you were saying about Michael's dad, Tony.
Yes.
You need to have that rapport with at least one single person in spirit who can tell you what's going on.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. And I would say that the toughest lesson for me really was to learn to trust. To learn to trust spirit, that they won't leave you standing there looking like a frog opening and closing your mouth. They will work with you because they want to pass the messages on. They really do. So, yeah, trust in spirit's a wonderful thing. Just a couple of more questions. I can't believe it. Where do you see the society in the next 10 years?
Now, you know, we're not supposed to predict.
No, I know. Well, where
Now,
would you like to see the society in 10 years then?
I think excuse me, what I would like is to see an HQ built. I think it would be very nice to have a building that was designated for our use. It would be nice. I would have to talk with all of you about how we would accomplish that, because the fact is that in order to have bricks and mortar here on the earth plane, one needs to have the wherewithal to purchase.
Yes,
and because we don't go a great deal by, you know, collecting money and stuff like that, you know, the society itself doesn't hold money as such. But I think we would need to set up some kind of fund, you know, perhaps a building fund. I know that Reverend Nick Brown will remember the building fund that we had when we were once an SNU church there.
Right.
I was once a president of an SNU church. Reverend Nick Brown was once the youngest president ever of an SNU church. But we both came out of that. When we came out of it, we had been raising funds for a long time, but the funds went with the title of the church. So we were left without funds. And we would need to be looking at that. But yes, I think in 10 years' time, I would like to think that there would be a designated building, new Christian Spiritualist Society, where we could have our activities, people could come, a library and so on and so forth, you know, meeting place. It would be very, very nice to have something like that, because going back to the old days, you know, the London College of Psychic Science was once just the Marylebone Society. You know, lots of places came into being because a group of spiritualists got together and purchased the building. Yeah. So
that would be amazing.
I think basically that. Yeah. I don't think that anybody can do anything better than they're doing already in terms of, you know, the work that's being done under the auspices of the New Christian Spiritualist Society. You know, I know that people are doing wonderful work. All our ministers are so busy, and wonderful adverts for our society, you know, all over the country, and now some abroad, overseas, you know. I think we're going to spread, and people are going to warm to us, because it comes back to the same thing, you know, we tell the truth.
Yeah, we do. So that's the society. What's next for Lyn and Kathy?
Oh, now that's very personal.
It doesn't have to be. It just, people are interested because they love you.
People may not know, Reverend Tony, people may not know, you know, what the significance of Lyn and Kathy is. Because don't forget, you know, this is not just our friends who know all about us. You know, this is a worldwide broadcast that you've created.
I know,
Everybody
but the
and
people that
anybody can tune in.
the
So
people that
I ought
are
to
watching
explain, shall
know
I?
who you are. Yes, yes, go on.
Yes. Well, this was why I was a bit quiet when Reverend Tony asked me about my 20-year-old self, and a bit earlier than that when I said I think he was low, might have been lowering the tone when he talked about something or other. Now the thing is this, that I grew up as a young girl, knowing I was very different in all sorts of ways. I was also different in terms of sexuality. I knew that as a girl, I was attracted to other girls, but I also knew, because it had been inculcated in me, because I was born into a traditional kind of family setup, was that it wasn't the sort of thing that was talked about or approved of. So I felt that whatever it was, it was wrong. So I did nothing at all apart from repress all those feelings. Um, and of course, because of that, I was very fortunate. I had children, which I wouldn't otherwise have had, because I thought they were sissy when I was when I was a teenager. I thought children were sissy. I didn't have anything really in common with other girls, I didn't think, although I liked them. I preferred the company of boys. And my skating, of course, I was made an honorary boy. I was delighted with that. They actually told me that. They said, we've made you an honorary boy, Lyn. So, oh, thank you. You know, but that actually meant that they could check me into a corner and sort of send me flying
Yeah,
when they
yeah,
fancied it, you know. But I'm talking about at the ice rink, by the way.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I used to smash up my bikes because I used to go out with the boys riding and all everything. Anyway, the thing is this, that that wasn't to be. I had to conform in certain ways, and so therefore, you know, as I say, I had my children, which was wonderful. Also had some very bad times because of it as well. And it all added up to a wealth of experience, which has made me very, very sympathetic and understanding to lots and lots of people who find themselves in dire straits when they're young. Anyway, I was very fortunate that in my 30s, I managed to, you know, become myself and to be true to my inner self, and what they call coming out of the closet. Well, that was all quite dramatic because it was in the early 70s. You can't imagine how awful it was.
I
I was
can.
told once that I was lucky that I didn't get beaten up every time I walked down the road. Well, I did get beaten up, but not every time I walked down the road, just a couple of times. And sometimes in my own home, and that was worse.
Oh
But
gosh.
you know, so the thing is, I was hospitalized a few times. So anyway, I managed to get out of it, and I met, you know, I met girls, and I met one particular girl, and it was wonderful, and she agreed to move in with me with my kids, and you know, I thought everything in the garden was lovely. I was totally naive when it came to that, of course, because you know, I had no template to go on.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, that lasted some time, and then I had a nervous breakdown when when said person decided that she wanted to go and have another life somewhere else, and I had never expected that to happen. So you know, I even had, you know, a nervous breakdown and all the sorts of stuff that goes with that, and felt sort of suicidal and everything. But then, you know, it passes, and I managed to gather my life back together, and there I was, a gay woman, you know, and did lots and lots of things. It was wonderful, you know, went on marches and all sorts of stuff. And in 1984, I was at an ice hockey match. I'd broken my foot actually because I'd been out running, and some woman on a sit up and beg bike had run me over.
Oh no.
I was running early morning. This woman came round the corner and went straight into me. Bang.
Gosh.
So anyway, I told her not to worry because she was upset. I said, no, you go on to work. She was late for work. Anyway, I hobbled back home and I hobbled into St Thomas's. And yes, the diagnosis of a broken foot. Well, I was playing hockey at the time, ice hockey. So I wasn't going to be doing that in a hurry. So I was bench managing a match. One of my kids was actually playing at a women's match. And I was told that a reporter from the Morning Star newspaper had come to interview me and Janine. Janine was the captain of the hockey club, North London Raiders. Only the demure girls joined. And she was going to interview us for International Women's Day edition of the Morning Star, which is March the 8th every year. And so I met Kathy.
Wow.
And I decided I would interview her. Sorry, she was interviewing me. That was right. So I said I'd give her another interview if she'd meet me at a pub. And she thought she was interviewing me. But I was really interviewing her.
Yeah. Wow.
And we've been friends, good friends ever since.
Bless
and
you.
We got married in 2016. She'll kill me if I forget which year. Never mind the date. January the 20th, 2016. We got married.
Congratulations.
Well,
that's wonderful.
Yeah, you probably need to congratulate Kathy more than me.
I've met Kathy. Sorry, that's what I didn't mean that.
Anyway, so what was your question then? What was it?
What next?
Oh, what next? Good gracious. We've done so much together. We've done so much, not just in our writing, journalism, but in skating. Kathy was my assistant coach. She ended up as my assistant coach when I was coaching the South African ice speed skaters. We had supported the ANC and the boycott.
Wow.
And after that, when South Africa came out of that, they were Kathy, she's saying that we're very busy. Yeah, well, we know this. So we were invited. I was invited to go out to South Africa to actually see what I could do for the community out there, with speed skating. And I collected up loads and loads and loads of skates, modern skates, because of course they didn't have anything like that. They'd been basically boycotted for 20 years. So we took 2 casefuls of skates out with us. We flew out there at Christmas, and Kathy came out as my assistant coach, and we did all that kind of stuff. And she came out to America when we went out to the World Championships with the squad. We met Sam Ramsamy, who was the head of what was the Non-Racial Olympic Committee of South Africa, NOCSA, but became the Olympic Committee of South Africa, of course, because the apartheid was abolished, dismantled, and so we've done many, many, many things together. Kathy was a footballer herself. She was the PA and press officer for the Women's Football Association when I met her. And she has done a great deal in her life as well, with football and also then in journalism. And Kathy typed out Women and Sport, which was a book I was commissioned to write in 1988. And Kathy used to sit there to my dictation, and every now and again I would have to wake her up because she'd fall asleep at the typewriter. It was that long ago. But yeah, so we've done a very great deal, and we're still managing to do a great deal. And so what's next for us, I think we're just hopeful that we can continue, to do the work that we've chosen to do in our retirement. We put together a magazine for the community that we live in. We do it to the best of our professional ability. It's a glossy magazine. I don't think any village in England has got as posh and glossy a magazine as ours. And of course, we do that voluntarily. And everything we do, we just hope that we keep on doing. What I am planning, and what I've been planning for years now, is for an ice stadium to be built hereabouts, which is where fen skating started. And I've been moving towards that. Kathy has supported me all the way through. And I'm hoping that we are gathering momentum for that, and that in the next little while we'll be seeing Lyn and Kathy having to do with getting this ice stadium built, and perhaps even Kathy pushing me around on the ice in my chair.
Yeah, I think that would be wonderful. When are you publishing an autobiography, as yours is such a great story, says Trace Lapworth?
Oh, I'm not sure about that. My ambition really is to have this ice stadium, because I know it sounds a bit strange, but I thought to myself, there'd have to be some kind of spin-off for us, in terms of being able to get the funds to build that HQ I was telling you about. And I thought, if I can get somebody interested enough to do the ice stadium, I think maybe at some point I would get somebody interested enough to help us with a building as well. But for us, I think we just want to go on doing what we're doing, and we get a great deal of pleasure from our friends, from our spiritual work. Kathy is a wonderful physical medium, and also a wonderful psychometrist and mental medium. And she sat in circle with me for 17 years,
Wow.
Well, she only really sat to sort of keep me company, I think, but she developed.
Yeah. And the final thing I want to ask is, are any sins unforgivable?
Now, the word sin is one that means different things to different people. One person's sin is another person's lifestyle, Reverend Tony. So I'm always very careful to look at the words. Like I said, when I was born here, the first thing I realized was there was sort of symbols and things that people could read.
Yeah.
They can be misinterpreted, and also the fact that sin is, as I said, a blanket term for some kind of regulation of people's lifestyles or choices. And I'm not sure, I mean, forgiving sin, I think you'd have to specify what is meant by sin, really. And I think people should do that. I'm not saying that patronizingly. I'm saying that genuinely concerned that we should look at something, that sin, and ask ourselves, what are they talking about then? Be specific. Be specific. If you're going to say something, or some action or something is a sin, please specify what sin you think it is.
Yeah.
And then I think that there are a few sins that don't need to be forgiven because they ain't sins.
I completely agree.
I mean, of course, and the other thing is this: if you think back, great thinkers and mediums, look at those 10 commandments. Or there were more, of course, that got broken. Um, you know, thou shalt not kill. Well, that's fine. You shouldn't. That's it. It's absolute. Thou shalt not kill. That you should not kill. Full stop. Didn't say who or what or when or who was entitled to be killed and who wasn't. No. Thou shalt not kill.
Yeah.
Thou shalt honour thy father and thy mother, that thy days shall be blessed and long. You know, yes, if we have the good fortune to have good parents, or parents that we can look up to or love, we must honour them. We must honour the fact that we were born here anyway. So whoever our parents were, you know, we must honour that. You know, it's just an absolute. You just think, okay, I'm very glad that I was delivered here. Full stop. Thank you. You know, and all those others, you know, and about not coveting thy neighbour's wife and sheep or ox. You know, it's just saying, don't be envious. Yeah. Don't be envious. You know, be happy with what you've got. Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
You know. So I think, you know, there are some things that you can say, you know, are sins, and some things that may not be sins. But you have to specify, I think, be specific before you talk about sin. And about forgiveness, you know, it's very, very, very hard to forgive people who kill.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing. It's very difficult. Jesus was a wonderful example. You know, he said to us, you know, be merciful. You know, show mercy unto others that you would have shown yourself. And that's what you have to think. You know, you have to forgive others before you can be forgiven. Because if you can't forgive someone else, how can you expect them to forgive you?
Yeah.
You know, are we also, you know, perfect that we don't need forgiving for something wrong that we've done? So I think that we have to offer that forgiveness, and in that way we can get rid of some of our, you know, negativity that's in us, because we can't forgive. We hold anger or hatred, and it's very, very hard. Very hard.
It goes back to what you were saying before, that if you hold negativity in your life, then you're going to attract negativity into it. And
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's what's so wonderful about our spiritualism, you know, and especially our Christian spiritualism, our kind of spiritualism, because we say to people, you know, be uplifted, you know, don't be down, you know, come and talk to somebody, or, you know, speak to each other and be honest, and know that you are a wonderful spirit within you, and you're entitled to be happy and to be loved, and you're worthy. Yeah. You know, we have communion service in our spiritualist services, because we don't say that people have to be worthy to take communion. Jesus himself didn't say you've got to be worthy in order to break bread and wine with me. No. He sat down and broke bread and wine with what was called sinners.
Yes, he did. He did.
Because he knew the different degrees of sin. He mixed with prostitutes and tax collectors who used to rip people off, you know, and stuff like that. And he knew, you know, but he would sit among them and uplift their spirits, I'm sure, and make them feel that they were worthy and worth something, and perhaps would turn their lives around because of it. And that's what you have to hope for, you see.
Well said. And I think that's a wonderful tone to end on then. And you do the same thing. People are just saying in the comments about how they could sit and listen to you all day. And Sean Maltus says you need to do a podcast. Because
I think I did I tried to do podcasts. I did try, but I got in a terrible muddle, and there are some out there, I think, but I don't know how you'd act it. I'll have to have a look and see. I think I did about 4, but I didn't really know how to manage it.
Oh, bless. But no, thank you for a wonderful evening, and thank you for being so generous with your time and with your story.
No, it was just such a pleasure, and thank you so much for inviting me. And what I'm going to do, of course, afterwards is have a cup of tea. All mediums have to have cups of tea, you know.
We do.
And that's the only reason. That's the only reason I used to visit all the churches, was because I'd have a cup of tea afterwards and a piece of cake. Yes. Now then, and sometimes Arthur down at Canterbury Christian Spiritualist Church, he used to make wonderful fruitcake. Oh, it was marvelous. Oh. And do you know what? When I was editor of Psychic News, I put his recipe in the paper. I got him to. You know, us spiritualists are very versatile. Anyway, so the thing is, that's what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to have a look, and then I'll see everybody's comments and stuff like that. Because as I said, I've just been sitting here clutching this phone. Oh, and thank you so much, everybody, for the love and the care, because I know that you know that's coming through.
so much for you. It's brilliant. You'll love the comments as you see them go up. But thank you very much, Lyn. I think that's everything. Don't forget that there will be the service for Pastures Green on Wednesday, Little Port on Thursday, and then I'll be back on with Irene and Jean on Friday. So wonderful. Thank you, everybody.
Wonderful work. Wonderful work, Reverend Tony.
Thank you. Thank you. Could we close in prayer, Lyn, please?
You want a prayer as well?
Oh, I'll do the closing prayer. I'll do the closing prayer.
If you'd like me to, or you may do that, Reverend Tony.
Thank you. I will do it. I'll do it because you opened, so I'll close. Could we blend our energies, please? Great Spirit, thank you so much for allowing us to join together across this virtual space tonight. We would like to thank Lyn for being so generous with her time and with her story, and for being so open and honest with us and sharing her truth. Father, we now hand back to you everything which is rightfully yours, with love, honour and glory. Amen.
Amen.
Good night and God bless everybody. Stay safe till we meet again.
God bless you, Reverend Tony.
Bless you. There we are.